Hi students, welcome to lesson number 22 on case study method. Now the introduction. Case study is both method and tool for research. Case study is an intensive study of a phenomena, but it gives subjective information rather than objective. It gives detailed knowledge about the phenomena and is not able to generalize beyond the knowledge. The aim of case study method is to find out the factors that account for the behavior patterns of the given unit and its relationship with the environment. An English philosopher, 𝗪𝗏 introduced this method, which was adopted by social researchers like Herbert Spencer, Haley, Mitchell, etc. Spencer used case materials in his comparative studies of different cultures. On the other hand, Haley resorted to the case study method in his study of juvenile delinquency. Today, sociologists, political scientists, anthropologists, psychologists and ethnologists make use of the case study method while conducting their research. Significantly, this method acquired the necessary impetus and recognition or a systematic field research technique in sociology with the classic study. Again, anthropologists and ethnologists interested in the systematic description and study of the primitive as well as modern culture have utilized the case study method. It is important to note that case study is not a method of data collection, but it is a research strategy or an empirical inquiry that uses multiple evidential sources. And the objective of the lessons are that it will enable the students to understand about case study method of conducting research. They can discuss the stages and importance, and they can also make an empirical inquiry about a contemporary phenomena through this method. Now, we will understand the meaning and definition of case study. The case study or case history method is not a newer thing, but it is a linear descendant of very ancient methods of sociological description and generalization, namely the parable, the allegory, the story and the novel. In simple terms, case study is an in-depth study of a particular situation. It is a method through which a very broad area of research is narrowed down into one easily reachable topic. Case study methods attempt to find out the reasons behind the behavior pattern of the study subjects and its relationship with the environment. According to P.V. Young, case study is a comprehensive study of a social unit, be it a person, a group of persons, an institution, a community or a family. According to Good and Hart, case study is a method of exploring and analyzing the life of a social unit. Therefore, we can say that case study is a method that serves different purposes, describing, exploring and explaining a situation as well as generating a theory. It involves qualitative methods of research and presents a holistic account about a particular phenomena. It is a more intensive in nature. The field of study is comparatively limited but has more depth in it. According to its design, case study method can be divided into three categories, that is explanatory, descriptive and exploratory. In explanatory case studies, it aims to answer how or why questions with little control on behalf of the researcher over occurrence of events. This type of case study focuses on phenomena within the context of real life situations. Second, descriptive case study aim to analyze the sequence of interpersonal events after a certain amount of time has passed. Case studies belonging to this category usually describe culture or subculture and they attempt to discover the key phenomena. Under exploratory case studies, it aims to find answer to the questions of what or who. Exploratory case study data collection method is often accompanied by additional data collection methods such as interviews, questionnaires, experiments, etc. Now, we will try to understand the characteristics and objective of case study. The first and foremost objective of case study method is to analyze the behavioral patterns of a single unit and its relationship with the environment. Another major objective of a case study is that it forms the basis for a detailed study in the future. So, we can say that case study is a preliminary form of investigation. Case study also determines and defines the research question and develop hypothesis in a quantitative study. Case study is used by researcher to refute generalization in research, and one of the major objectives of case study is to test whether a quantitative study can be done or not. Case study also explores, explains and describes a particular situation. Now, the characteristics of case study. In case study, a small number of units is studied. It also studies the units in totality and not some specific aspect or variables of the units. Case study can be both qualitative or quantitative. In this method, one unit is considered to be one study. Case study covers a wide cycle of time, and in this method, the case is the core or center of inquiry. Now, the different types of case studies. The first type of case study is intrinsic case study. The study of a case, that is a person, group or department or a community, where the case itself is a primary interest in exploration, is known as intrinsic case study. Here, the researcher does not have to select one particular case. For example, evaluating the implementation of a new principle in an organization. Second, instrumental case study. In this kind of case study, the researcher begins with a research question and make use of a case that simplifies or illuminates his analysis. So, we can say that in instrumental case study, the case is simply a preliminary technique that paves way for further research. For example, a researcher interested in women and food habits might set up a study with middle-aged women and calcium intakes in their food. In this case, the women and the food habits are not the focus. The focus is learning the relationship between women and the food habits and why certain women have weaker bones. Third type of case study is pilot case study. Sometimes a researcher conducts some condensed studies before implementing a large-scale investigation. Such studies are called pilot or exploratory case studies. The main objective of this kind of case study is to have an identifying research questions and selecting types of measurement. Fourth type of case study is cumulative case study. In cumulative case study, the researcher aggregates information about the same unit that has been previously collected at different times, and this allows him to generalize information on the basis of past data. It also saves time, money and energy. Fifth type is illustrative case study. Illustrative case studies are descriptive in nature, and in this type of case study, one or two instances of the same events is used to describe an existing situation. Such a study familiarizes the researcher with the research area. Sixth type is historical case study. Historical case study is dependent on recordings, documents and interviews. This type of study traces the development of a person, organization or a system over time. For example, the study of a political party from its formation till its rise to power. Seventh type is situational case study. Situational case study studies a particular event or situation. All participants of the event are sought and their views are recorded. This helps the researcher understand and analyze the situation as a whole. For example, the reason behind strike of workers in a factory. Here, the management, the participant workers, the police force who arrived at the scene to control the situation, all are interviewed. And the eighth type is critical instance case study. These examine one or more sites for either the purpose of examining a situation of unique interest with little to no interest in generalizability, or to call into question or challenge a highly generalized or universal assertion. This method is useful for answering cause and effect questions. Whatever type of case study is to conduct, it is important to first identify the purpose, goals and approach for conducting methodologically sound research. Now, we will understand the various steps that are involved in case study method, and they are the step 1, that is selection of the case. Whether or not to opt for a case study depends on the type of research a person is conducting. If a case study is required, then he or she has to identify the main objective of conducting the study. The selection of a particular case depends on whether the study is simply a preliminary reading for further investigation, or whether the researcher is interested in solving a particular problem through the case study. Second step is collection of data. After selecting the case, the researcher has to make preparation for data collection through the case. Here, he or she can use different methods such as personal interviews, survey of records and interviews, etc. And generally, quantitative techniques of data collection are applicable in this procedure. Step 3 is preliminary data analysis. The third stage in a case study is systematically analyzing the preliminary data collected from the case. This will help the researcher to raise more important questions relating to the research as well as to form a relevant hypothesis. And the step 4 is thorough study of the case. After identifying the important questions and constructing the hypothesis, the researcher conducts a thorough study of the case. Here, he or she uses the method of prolonged observation and formal as well as informal interviews. The researcher keeps on investigating until he or she finds satisfactory answers to the problem and can draw a clear picture of the investigation. And the fifth step involves follow-up investigation. In order to ensure the reliability of the data so far collected, the researcher repeats the process of observation and interview and repeats question whenever and wherever necessary. This follow-up helps him or her to arrive at reliable and valid data. Step 6 involves generalization of the finding. Through the conclusion of the case study, the researcher ensures a generalization of the data collected and analyzed. Through this generalization, he or she can draw a clear picture of the investigation and extend this understanding to arrive at a conclusion. Now, we will understand the different ways of case studies, and the first way of conducting case study is writing analysis of case study. This is the most careful analysis of a case study, which is probably obtained when it is made in writing. Case studies can be used as term papers with other related readings and bibliographies. Second way is panel of experts, which requires group members who miss the advantage of participation, listening to a panel of experts. A case may be useful, especially as an introduction to the case method. A variation of this technique would be to bring in a panel of experts to analyze a case after a group had already done so. Another way is analysis of similar case studies. Another variation of case study is to discuss, collect from the group members incidents from their experience similar to the case under consideration. Generalization drawn from the case under consideration may carry over to the experiences of other members. And the fourth way is cross-examination. By cross-examination, group members with questions prepared in advance, they will discover that it is necessary to do careful thinking and preparation before entering into case study. This technique is especially appropriate for use with case containing a great deal of detail, gives the researcher many opportunities to ask individuals to defend their point of views in terms of the data presented. Now, we will understand the significance and importance of case study. Case study method is a very useful way for conducting thorough and quality research. It is a research strategy that is applied in preliminary period of an investigation, so that the researcher has a better understanding of his study as well as forms a relevant hypothesis to carry forward the study. Case studies focus on gathering deep information about a specific person, group, event or community. They attempt to evaluate the reasons behind the actions of a particular case in a particular situation over a period of time. Gathering such detailed information about a particular subject is not possible through any other type of experimentation. Often, a researcher carries out studies on unusual cases through a case study that might not be ethical to carry out through another way. For example, a case study of juvenile delinquency or a case study of female drug addicts. Often, these cases deal with sensitive and personal matter that need careful handling through observation. So, we can say that usually unethical matters can be tested by a researcher via this method. Case studies are also important because they give the research or problem realistic a task. The researcher understands that his area is not purely theoretical, and through an in-depth study, he can provide practical solutions to a real dilemma. Case studies help the researcher to connect his or her research problem. These are in-depth analysis that make the researcher simplify and understand the background of a particular case. A good case study opens up like a good story. It provides the researcher with the past and present, what, how, why and when of a particular event, and thus inspires him or her to analyze the behavior pattern of the case. Thus, we can say that case study method allows the exploration, simplification and understanding of complex issues. When a holistic and in-depth investigation is required, case studies serve as a robust method of conducting research. Now, the advantages of case study. First advantage is the formation of valid hypothesis. Case study helps in formulating valid hypothesis. Once the various cases are extensively studied and analyzed, the researcher can reduce various generalization which may be developed into useful hypothesis. It is admitted by all that the study of relevant literature and case study form the only potent sources of hypothesis. Second advantage is useful in framing questionnaires and schedules. Case study is of great help in framing questionnaires, schedules or other forms. When a questionnaire is prepared after thorough case study, the peculiarities of the group as well as individual units become known. Also, the type of response likely to be available, liking and aversions of the people. This helps in getting prompt response. Third advantage is sampling. Case study is of help in the stratification of the sample. By studying the individual units, the researcher can put them in definite classes or types and thereby facilitate the perfect stratification of the sample. Fourth advantage is location of deviant cases. The case study makes it possible to locate deviant cases. There exists a general tendency to ignore them, but for scientific analysis, they are very important. The analysis of such cases is of valuable help in clarifying the theory itself. Fifth advantage is study of process. In cases where the problem under study constitute a process and not one incident, example, courtship process, clique formation, etc., case study is the appropriate method as the case study is essential for valid study of such problems. Sixth advantage is enlarges experience. The range of personal experience of the researcher is enlarged by the case study. On the other hand, in statistical methods, a narrow range of topics is selected and the researcher's knowledge is restricted to the particular aspect only. Seventh advantage is qualitative analysis in actual situation. Case study enables the establishment of the significance of the recorded data when the individual is alive and later on within the life of the classes of individuals. The researcher has the opportunity to come in contact with different classes of people, and he is in a position to watch their life and hear their experiences. This provides him with an opportunity to acquire experiences of such life situations which he never expected to lead. This discussion highlights the advantage of case study in social research. Social scientists develop the technique to make it more perfect and remove the chances of biases. Now, the disadvantages of case study method. First, it is subjective bias. Research subjectivity in collecting data for supporting or refuting a particular explanation, personal view of investigation influences the findings and conclusion of the study. Second disadvantage is the problem of objectivity. Due to excessive association with the social unit under investigation, the researcher may develop self-justifactory data which are far from being factual. Third disadvantage is difficulty in comparison. Because of wide variations among human beings in terms of their response and behavior, attitudes and values, social setting and circumstances, the researcher actually finds it difficult to trace out two social units which are identical in all respects, and this hinders proper comparison of cases. Fourth disadvantage is time, energy and money consuming method. The preparation of a case history involves a lot of time and expenditure of human energy. Therefore, there is every possibility that most of the cases may get stray. Due to such difficulties, only a few researchers can afford to case study method. And the fifth disadvantage is time span. Long time span may be another factor that is likely to distort the information provided by the social unit to the researcher. Sixth one is unreliable source material. The two major sources of case study are personal document and life history. But in both these cases, the records or the own experience of the social units may not present a true picture. On the contrary, the social unit may try to suppress its unpleasant facts or add color to them. As a result, the conclusions drawn do not give a true picture and dependable findings. And seventh disadvantage is scope for wrong conclusions. The case study is laden with inaccurate observation, wrong inferences, faulty reporting, memory failure, repression or omission of unpleasant facts in an unconscious manner, dramatization of facts, more imaginary description and difficulty in choosing a case typical of the group. All these problems provide the researcher with every possibility of drawing wrong conclusions and errors. To summarize, case studies are complex because they generally involve multiple sources of data, may include multiple cases within a study and produce large amounts of data for analysis. Researchers from many disciplines use the case study method to build upon theory, to produce new theory, to dispute or challenge theory, to explain a situation, to provide a basis to apply solutions to situations, to explore or to describe an object or phenomena. The advantages of the case study method are its applicability to real life, contemporary human situation and its public accessibility through written reports. Case study results relate directly to the common reader's everyday experience and facilitate an understanding of complex real life situations.